it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Get the Bag podcast. We're at episode 54, climbing
My
on up.
goodness.
Just a few more episodes left in the year. We got one more after this one, and then it's off to 2023, which is pretty crazy to think about. But happy to have you guys join us. As always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. You got us here, and to also like us on YouTube, like this episode, subscribe, all the things. I'm your host, Gladia Castro. Got my co-host Tim Park, and
What's up?
it should be a fun little chat. I think with everything happening in the market, the interest rates coming up, I think it's really scared a lot of people
Hmm.
into really thinking, can you afford your home? Can you afford to buy a home? Can you afford to
Right.
we're really in a world of renters, and so
Hmm.
I think there's some stats where especially millennials, Gen Z, they're more um in terms of like renting compared to owning. And there's a lot of things obviously that have changed in the last 20, 30 years, so we're going to unpack that a little bit, talk about there are different ways to acquire a home, and working towards
Hmm.
that. And I think even the week before, we kind of talked about, or a couple weeks ago, on like, are you a consumer or investor, and like ways that you can,
Right.
work on what you have, and to save up and invest to then use those investments on stuff that you want. So it should be a good
Yeah.
conversation today.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is important just because everybody asks this question. And I think each, depending on who you are, if you're an agent, investor, or just a home buyer, your answer is going to be different. Right. And then what they see in the media and what's actually happening in the market. So I'm excited about this conversation and, you know, looking forward to dive in. Oh, by the way, happy holidays, y'all, because,
I know,
we,
man. We were just talking about how crazy busy this week has been. Um, it's just been a little, I'm like, it's supposed to slow down during the holidays. What's going on?
I know
Um,
it's picked up this year. It was crazy.
yeah. So definitely wish you and your family happy holidays. We have one more episode next week before we wrap up the year, and that should be a really great kind of going out of 2022, going into the
Mhm.
new year. Obviously last week, we kind of did our 1 year anniversary. Um, and it's just crazy going into
Yeah.
2023 with some awesome goals and stuff that we're working on. But yeah, let's uncover it. So um, obviously when it comes to affording a home, the typical route that people have sought out is the traditional route, right? Which is find an agent, make sure your credit is
Mhm.
good, have enough saved up in the bank for a down payment, closing costs, all those um, these out of these expenses going into closing. Maybe some extra money to fix up the property, perhaps,
Mhm.
whatever the case may be, commissions. So there's a lot of things that's tailored into that. Um, and that's kind of how people think they need, right, to buy a home.
Right.
And I mean, even investors use realtors, like, it's very common. But the issue has been kind of where the direction our generation has been leaning towards. We're more in debt, we're more we just don't have the same opportunities maybe that were there, or maybe we're not aware of the
Mhm.
opportunities that were there, maybe before, or that just the knowledge, right? So
Mhm.
when you kind of are seeing in the news like interest rates or this and that, it really scares people away. And you're seeing that right now, right? With like houses sitting on the market, like not, um, just not making any movement because people are being hesitant. Maybe lenders are being more strict. Who
Mhm.
knows? And it's really unfortunate because you know there's so many opportunities out there that you can to afford a home. So we're going to go over a few strategies, or something in mind too that we've learned, and at some point we're going to want to also invest in our own personal residence right now. I think both me and Tim are renting our own, like where we live, just because it's a pretty big commitment. I've kind of moved here and there, so just finding a one single location to, like, you know, basically nest, and really kind of build a foundation. Sometimes that's a little bit difficult. Um, but yeah, tell me about, Tim, like, what's kind of your vision? Because I know we've talked about kind of buying a home, like our personal residence. We've talked about like investment properties that
Mhm.
eventually would fund our mortgage payments and all this stuff. But like, what's kind of your plans on like ways to affording a home? Because LA ain't cheap either.
Yeah. Um, I think one of our, I guess, goals is to find something that is, in the area that we'd like, but, there's a couple of strategies like, getting an income property, living in it for a little bit, but taking, kinda the house hack scenario to where, it's a fourplex, and then we live in it for a year and then collect rent on the other, property or units in the building, and then that pays for the mortgage, right? So
Right.
we're looking for those type of, opportunities, which it can be difficult in the area that we're looking in,
Right.
but, also since now, um, a lot of the people are, there's a lot of foreclosures, gonna happen, especially in the month of February here in Los Angeles. So I think, people, or it just landlords evicting people, so, could be opportunities in that, um, situation as well, to where we're looking for people that need some help, getting out of their situation with their home, and then, being able to, kind of take over their mortgage payment. And then that way we're taking advantage of a lower interest rate at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of the current interest rate that is currently high. So a lot of people, have current mortgages, but they can't pay, but their interest rates are super low. Like we're talking about 2 to 3%. And
Right.
that's really affordable, right now with the prices of, houses in my area. I mean, that could be different in other areas like the Midwest and stuff like that, but here in Los Angeles, it's, your house could be in our area is like 1.5. So it's, compared to 200,000, let's say in the
Right.
Midwest
That's
for the
a
same
huge
house.
right. I mean, that's kind of when we're working a virtual market too. You see some of the prices. Like I'm marketing out in Tennessee, in a much in markets on the secondary markets, I guess, outside of Nashville, or like these more bigger markets, market
Mhm.
cities. Um, where yeah, a house, like yesterday, I had a phone call for this duplex he wants to sell for 85,000. It's just like a
Mhm.
duplex, but it's like in a really small town. And so I'm trying to lean him into seller finance to do that, because you have tenants that have been paying way below rent. So that's always kind of an issue. But when you see 85,000 for a duplex, like you
I
talk
know.
about a duplex out here, it's like what, like 800, like up to a million, depending, right, on the
Yeah,
area and like
depending
the
your area,
condition.
yeah.
Maybe 500,000, like a decent duplex out here.
Mhm.
So it when you think about, can I afford a home, you really have to think about like also like where do you want to live? Like if it's really LA or these bigger or like the Bay Area, like that's where you want to
Mhm.
live, then there are some steps you'll have to do. So I'm going to actually paste the our conversation for are you a consumer or investor in the chat,
Okay.
because that was such a good conversation that we had on like things that you should do to like get your money right, and like, obviously paying down your debt, investing in something, whether it's like your business or index fund, whatever it is. And I think we uncover really good information on things that you could do to like kind of get you on track. That's if you want to do the traditional route, right? And like
Right.
saving money and like investing a little bit every month. Any extra income, you're investing it in something, right? Um, Definitely watch that. Now, if you are kind of in a business right now and you want to, I mean, my goal, at least kind of what I'm working on, is having my wholesaling business fund, or at least pay for other investment properties.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like I also want to, you know, kind of set the foundation somewhere as well, whether it's like it is here in LA or it's in the Bay Area. But those places ain't cheap, right?
Mhm.
So
No.
for me, like I've just been like putting it out in the universe. Like I want something creatively, like out here, if possible, even if it's like, and creatively, I mean like, uh, seller finance would be more ideal than do like a sub two. But I mean, I'd be living there, but something along those lines. And we also have other videos explaining what those strategies are. I don't think we have time to
Mhm.
uncover all of those. But if there's a way that I can buy a home creatively, where it's like, okay, I do still need to put down a significant amount of money. It's still not breaking the bank, or it's still not, I don't have to go through a realtor and pay commissions. I don't have to, uh, have my credit ran, or, things like
Mhm.
that. That's the beauty of creative finance. Um, so I also consider house hacking, but again, properties out here are so expensive. Um, you really do have to go direct to seller in some ways, and that's something we do best, right? Like, the business that we're in real estate, is we know how to
Mhm.
market and find sellers. So, all that to say is, if you have a way to invest your money, like find ways to do that, because doing it's going to take a little bit longer doing it a traditional route of saving your money. You have to make your money work for you, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
those are just some tips that I recommend that I'm looking into. Is It's not like, I don't want to work with agents or anything like that. It's just there's so much money there, and agents are basically doing what we do,
Mhm.
right? In a scale.
Right.
Sometimes they have a larger network, of course, but like, who wants to pay commissions on a, 500K house, like, or
Right.
property?
Right. And I think, we're not looking for like a lot of people. There's a difference between, I guess, retail and investors, right?
Mm.
As um because we know that we can eventually fix that house up or do whatever we need to do to make it better, or it's a transitional home to get something that we want in the future.
Yeah,
So we're
something
not
under
looking.
value.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not thinking short term, we're thinking long term. And I think people that want a house want a finished product, and they want everything that kind of fits their idea of what a perfect home is. And that's actually when you should get a realtor, if that's your plan, right? And
Right.
they'll find you the perfect home for the area that you want. And and they're always going to say the perfect time to buy is right now, no matter what the market is, right?
Right.
um, because their whole purpose is to find you a house, or get you a house that fits your criteria, right? For
Right.
us, it's a little bit different. We're looking as it as an investment, and what strategies can we have, or do, to get into a property that, hey, we own this now. If we want to keep it for ourselves, then let's fix it up, use the money that we're doing in wholesaling or other deals that we're doing to help fund that project, right? So
Right.
uh, I think it's just a different little mindset, and we don't want to
Right.
pay commissions and all of this as well too. And it's the small things that go along with purchasing a house that people don't realize. And I think since we have the knowledge, then I think we have a better advantage of getting a property um, that would be under you know the price point that normal people would do in a full retail deal, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think you're spot on. Is like, it's definitely a mindset, and not everybody has that. I mean, you're gonna have your
Yeah, it's
retail,
true. Of course.
buyers either way, or conventional buyers, whatever. And that's fine. I mean, even investors still follow that, because it's like, I don't have time to source a property, but I have all these extra funds. I have all these other I'm cash flowing other investment properties, so like that's not a problem.
Mhm.
And so that's why for me it's like I don't want to rush into it. I'm giving myself some time to find like the right place, but I'm like in that meantime I'm trying to find as many investment properties to cash flow. And if I
Mhm.
can cash flow, like, I think that's been a hot term lately. People want to assume like, oh yeah, I'm going to be cash flowing this much. Like that takes time. Cash flow is all
Yeah.
the long game.
Right.
Which is why there's other strategies that you can do that um kind of be right in the middle where you get cash flow and you get like some money up front. But that's a little bit more advanced. Um, but cash flow, you don't get rich quick with cash flow, right? It's just a way to get extra income,
Mhm.
passive income without having to work for it. But it's not straightforward. So to think like, oh yeah, I have one investment property, like that's not really going to make a difference. You need quite a few to like first retire
Yeah.
yourself. And
Absolutely.
then, you just have to think about what life do I want to live? And not thinking, and like the way I'm considering like buying a personal home is like that's not going to be the end all be all kind of property. It's kind of a stepping stone, I think, like you mentioned. So it's like I'm not looking to be super picky, like a mansion or anything like that. I'm like that's
Right.
further down the road. For me, it's like just a place I can kind of build for the next couple of years, like settle.
Mhm.
That's affordable, right? Like for me, I'm like what a lot of people do is um they think in terms of like monthly payments. They don't think of like the interest rates because that's what as investors we consider all of those things.
Right.
So they're like, okay, what's the monthly payment on this? Okay, yeah, I can afford it. It's 4,000 a month. Like that's up there. Like,
Right.
and they don't have any extra income to like counteract that. You're going to be in a tough position. So even for me, even though I'll be looking for a personal home, I don't want to buy a fat ass home, like, right
Mhm.
off the top. I want to still live below my means, because that's the whole goal is like we're building right now. Like let's work on using the extra income to invest in more things, invest in more
Right.
businesses, invest in more rental properties, whatever the case may be. So I think that mindset shift is key. In determining, can I really afford your home? And it's like, yes, you can. But it also depends on what it is you're looking for. Obviously, your budget, what area you want to live in. All that contributes to what it is. And the easiest way, of course, is house hacking. That's probably
Mhm.
like if you can afford something, house hack somewhere. Like
Yeah.
live in it for a year, you can rent out, and especially a multifamily property, or just buy a property under value, which they're starting to come out now in the next couple months. Things are going to be a little bit more affordable, probably. Get something under market, and then just kind of sit on it and see what happens in the next 3 years. And
Mhm.
then maybe you're sitting on a landmine, that you can then like sell and then upgrade whatever it is. So I think it's good to just kind of open your eyes to like what's happening. There's not just one direction to do. Like you don't have to just follow one way. There's no one way to go about it,
Right.
basically.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it's it's really, to answer the question is yes, you can. It just depends on the strategy and the mindset that you have, like you had just mentioned. So, um,
Right.
people have different goals in owning a property or owning a home. So, I think you know how you're going to do it, and your education on how to you know, go about it. Because growing up was, it's like, man, I gotta get my credit score or, the income has to be up and, then you have to get
Yeah.
a realtor and stuff. So, and then learning the ins and outs of different other strategies that have been around for years. I meant like, you know, 20, 50 years on different strategies on how to, acquire a home or even through, in an entity and stuff. So when
Right.
the things are going to change, whether it's taxes or, whether it's the value in the area. But the one thing that hasn't changed is the different ways of how you can get into a property.
Yeah.
And we're still, learning. There's more ways to do it, right? And I know we're
Right.
taking advantage of some of the different strategies, like novations, or sub twos, or owner finance or seller financing. And these are situations where we've implemented them into our business, um, whether it's wholesaling or trying to incorporate them into, actual purchase of a property. So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love, and we talk about this all the time, like why we love real estate so much. It's so unique. Like there's so many different avenues you can take. Like I learn something new every day, like having conversations with you or like, with other
hmm
people that's in my group is I'm just astounded like what how is that even possible? Like I had no idea, and that's something that's just been kept. Um but it's just knowledge too. Like for us
hmm
it's like okay, we understand how things are, how did things go, and so then we just kind of apply it. Like if we can apply it to our business, we can apply it to other ways. Like, I think Pace
100%.
Morby, who's well known for his creative finance for Sub Two, he has a Sub Two group. He bought his personal home in Arizona, which was like a multi-million-dollar mansion,
hmm
Sub Two. I think
Yeah.
he only put 400K down, and then the rest, he's just taken over in the mortgage uh,
Right.
of the original seller. So these are things that, again, and I think it was something where maybe they were leading into foreclosure. So as you start kind of watching the news, the more the more you're exposed to one thing, the more things start popping out. You start noticing more things. So it's
hmm
like if we're talking about foreclosures, like obviously there's probates, there's different avenues, evictions. Then you'll start being like, oh, like this is happening in this area. Oh, I may be interested in it. Let me check that out. I think that's huge. When it comes to it, it's just having the wherewithal of like knowing what's going on, or just having that curiosity to check it out. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing too is don't rush into it. Like don't rush into like buying that $2 million home just because keeping up. Like build slowly. Like that's okay. Like you have time to do that. Like focus on making more money, living below your means, and see where that takes you.
Yeah.
The more money you can use to invest, and the more you can receive in passive income, then you can like really start. You have some more options. That's all you really want, is having those options. And so, if you really want to do the quick and dirty way, like definitely house hack somewhere,
hmm
somewhere where you can afford, and just it's really not that hard. I think people just try to overcomplicate things,
hmm
and I feel like we say that in every episode. It's like don't
Right.
overthink it.
Right. Like, so, I guess going back to the question is, can you afford, like, the question to you would be is like, what if I don't have, good credit, or, I don't have much for a down payment? What what should someone, kind of, what strategy should someone do, or what should they, you know, um, kind of research for them?
Yeah, I think definitely creative finance if you really have a bad credit, or honestly, you can do it the other way where it's like you work on paying down your debt and just, getting your credit to a good place. There's definitely plenty of, I know the interest rates are a little high, but FHA loans that require a super
hmm
low credit, I think it's like 580. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's impossible. Like, if your credit's down in the 200s, 300s, which, for many people it is, definitely focus on getting that first step, which is paying down your debt, living below your means. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned in the last couple years is many of us don't like, and not having that investor mindset is we work at our jobs, and that's our only source of income, and the more we get paid, the more we spend, right?
hmm
We don't learn to live below our means. It's just automatic. It's just instinct where it's like, "Oh, I can now afford this." let's go
Mhm.
here and there. And like, there's nothing wrong with like splurging. Like I do it, occasionally we'll go out for like a nice dinner, or like maybe we want to plan for a trip. But people are in debt because they don't live below their means. They want to overspend. They want to keep up with the Joneses, and that puts them in a tough position. So I've learned is like, you want to spend like and I think this is why I shared the consumer versus investor video, because we break down like your highest expenses is your car or transportation, your food,
Mhm.
and your in living, like where you live. So rent, whatever. You want to keep those as low as possible for the longest time, because you're able to use that extra income to either fund your business, to fund like investments, like, Roth IRA, whatever it is, stocks. Um, and you want to make your money work for you at some point. You can't just depend on a single income. So I'd say you can go one way. Creative finance is amazing way. uh,
Mhm.
I would just research on YouTube. You can just type in creative finance and find like subject to seller finance. Seller finance is great because that's when a owner owns their property free and clear, and then you can just kind of create a note, flexibility there. Um, and or you can just kind of work at getting your credit to a certain place, even like at a 600, and you can like get a loan out. Hey, the interest rate may be high, but property values are much a little bit lower. Properties are being listed a little bit lower because they're sitting on the market. So take advantage of that going into 2023. Like house
Mhm.
hack, find a multifamily maybe, or even a single family, rent out the rooms. Like there's
Yeah.
so many ways you can go about it. And that's why, like, once you open your eyes to like what other people are doing, then you start thinking like, oh, well, maybe I can do it this way. You're looking at it as an investor and not just, a consumer, just a regular person. But there's going to be those regular people who don't, watch Get the Bag podcast, any other
Right.
podcast, and that's okay. But start thinking about it that way. Like there's a solution
Mhm.
to every problem you have. Don't just be like, I can't afford a home, so I'm just gonna rent forever.
Right.
I talk to people like that. They're
I
just like,
know.
I just rather rent. It's just a
Mhm.
lot easier. I don't want to deal with like owning and stuff like that. And that's because they just don't understand how it works.
Yeah. I totally agree, and I think as I talk to more people, just regular consumers, like, our last one of our podcasts had we had mentioned is that a lot of people is just they don't know. They don't know the different ways or how they can get into it. They just know the traditional way. So, we're just, as you look at possibilities, maybe share that with other people that you're, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house, but there's a lot of different strategies, and that gets them to question, and then you just refer them back to Get the Bag podcast or whatever YouTube channel, or where you learned it from. Then they get more exposure, because it's
Yeah.
not just about us in the show. It's about, just making uh, it available and educating people that don't know on these other
Yeah.
strategies to help them, whatever, get into, a house as well. So,
Yeah, or reach out to somebody, reach out to us, reach out to
mhm.
people who are doing it and just be like, "Hey, I'm interested in this. I want to learn more about that." Which is why, we want to kind of open up a course for beginners, because that there is a need there on like people understanding not just wholesaling, but just in general. Like wholesaling really opens the doors to like just everything real estate, because once you understand the concept of wholesaling, and I think we've talked about this before, you can apply those same principles to anything. Whether
Yeah,
you want to start another business, like the process is
100%.
all the same. It's all the same. And that's another thing I've learned too, is like once you have a good process down, you can apply that like to anything
Mhm.
that you start up. And so once that you understand that, you can apply that to buying your own home. And that's why for us, like when we're looking at buying a personal home at some point, we're considering those things. We're just in a difficult market in California
Right,
because we
right.
live here. Um, we can't just do the conventional way of like paying cash for a 900K house or whatever. Even like if we wanted to get a fourplex out here, those are really, really expensive. You're either dealing with one end of like the spectrum, which is a really beat up house, and sometimes you don't want to start with something so overwhelming like that, or you're dealing with a really nice renovated multifamily, and then you're like, oh man. But another way too, where if you really want some other passive income, is like partnering up with somebody too.
Mm-hmm.
You can partner up with so if me and Tim are like, all right, let's get a fourplex together. Um, hey, we'll live in one unit in like one of the units, and we'll rent out the other and we'll split it. That's also another way. But you also have to like trust the person that you're partnering up with. And there's legal ways that you can kind of go
Mm-hmm.
about that. But that's also another way too. Partner up with somebody, maybe bring half and half of the money if you want to go down on a property. I know many people who've done that as well, in the way like house hacked in that sense too.
Right. And a lot of people, I know we're coming down to the wire here, but um it's if you're you want to, invest in real estate passively, there's some ways to do that, and one of them is a REIT. So just
Yeah,
research what REITs are, so you
that's
can
R E
invest
R
in.
E I T.
That's correct. Yeah. And so it's an acronym, right? So it's a real estate investment trust where you can invest in that particular REIT, and they invest in a bunch of real estate property. And from there, let's say you put in a low amount, 200, 500, or whatever the case may be, and then you'll get returns based on that, or dividends based off of that too. So there's other ways to kind of passively invest if you are interested in that. But hit us up separately, and or on Get the Bag podcast. Comments below, we'll answer those as well. So if you guys are interested in also that.
Definitely. And yeah, we'll keep you posted, especially next week, on like the course information and what that looks like. That's something we're still kind of making some time to work on, but believe me, when we have it out, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be super useful. Just kind of building out and like really just helping others as we're learning along the way, right? So really appreciate you guys tuning in with us. It's crazy to think like Christmas or just
I
holiday
know.
on the weekend. It's always like weird.
I know, right?
And it's just like I feel like this week has just been super crazy, but it's good. It means like we're getting down to business. We're just working. So I
Mhm.
want to tell everybody happy holidays, happy Hanukkah,
Yes.
Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend with family. Much blessings, but we'll be back next week
Mhm.
to discuss kind of the end of the year, do a little recap, and then kind of what our goals are going into 2023. Maybe even listening back on our last year's episode before the end of the year and seeing where we're at. I think will be fun, but appreciate you guys as
Cool.
always. Hit us up. We're here for you
Yep.
guys. Hit us up on Instagram or leave a comment, and we'll make sure to get back to you guys. But have a great rest of your week. Happy holidays, and catch y'all
Happy
next week.
holidays. All right.